You know, the biggest lessons in life, they don't always come from a book or a big lecture, right? Sometimes they come from the most ordinary, unexpected places. Today, we're going to find some really profound meaning hidden inside something you might just walk past at the grocery store: the Shinseiki pear. I mean, look at it. It's just a piece of fruit, right? But what if I told you that its name, its texture, even the way it's shaped, holds this incredible story about renewal, integrity, and faith? Let's dive in.
All right, so let's dive right in, and we're going to start with its name. Because honestly, even before you take a single bite, the name Shinseki is already hinting at something much, much deeper.
So, the name itself, that's our first big clue. Shinseiki, it's Japanese for new era or new century. So, right off the bat, we're talking about this powerful idea of a fresh start, of profound renewal, all wrapped up in a piece of fruit.
And if you've ever had one, you know it's a totally different beast from, say, a soft, teardrop-shaped Bartlett pear. It's round, almost like an apple, with this smooth, beautiful yellow skin. And when you bite into it, oh man, it's this crisp, juicy snow white flesh that just feels clean and refreshing.
Okay, so we've got the name, we've got the texture, but to really get this pear, we have to rewind a bit. We've got to go back to the very beginning, the blossoms. This is where we find our first lesson, that any kind of fruitfulness requires a vulnerable start. And here's something that's just a fundamental truth, not just for pears, but for, well, for everything. The blossoms always come before the fruit. There are just no shortcuts. This beautiful, delicate stage is absolutely necessary. And think about what that means. These little blossoms, they're just out there. They're completely exposed to the wind, to a sudden frost, you name it. And listen, not every single one is going to make it and become a pear. It's such a perfect picture of those seasons in our own lives, right? Those times of quiet, unseen faith, where you're just hoping and you're not sure of the outcome. I just love the contrast here. It looks so fragile, so delicate, but it holds the entire promise of the future harvest. It might feel uncertain, but this is exactly where it all starts.
So the big takeaway here is this. We can't mistake that vulnerability for weakness. It's not. Blossoms aren't weakness, they are beginnings.
Okay, so from that vulnerable beginning, we get to the fruit itself. And its texture? Wow, its texture has a whole other lesson for us, this time about a totally different kind of strength. So if you picture a classic Bartlett pear, you're thinking of that super soft, almost melting texture, right? Well, the Shinseki is the complete opposite. You get this firm, satisfying crunch. There's a little bit of resistance, and then this rush of refreshing juice. And that's the whole idea right there. It's firm, but it's sweet. It has structure, but it's still so refreshing. It just shows you that two things that seem like opposites can actually exist in perfect harmony. And that's where the spiritual parallel really clicks into place. You know, we often think maturity is all about being gentle and soft, but there's also a real virtue in being steadfast and being rooted. This isn't about being hard or rigid. It's about integrity. It's structure that's just brimming with life. So this whole idea of renewal, it kind of brings us full circle, right back to the pear's name. And it teaches us that real renewal, the kind that lasts, is built on patience, partnership, and this really quiet kind of faithfulness. That name, New Century, it just echoes with these incredible scriptural promises, doesn't it? When you hear things like a new heart, or behold, I make all things new, or becoming a new creature. I mean, this pear is basically a living, edible symbol of that very promise. But here's the thing about that newness. It doesn't just pop up out of thin air. It has to build on what was there before. Just think about the tree. The new fruit grows on those old, established branches. In the same way, redemption doesn't wipe out our history. It redeems it. It uses that old wood to support the new fruit. And that growth, it almost never happens alone. See, the Shinseiki pear, like a lot of fruit trees, actually gives a much better harvest when it's cross-pollinated with another tree nearby. I mean, come on, that's such a beautiful picture of community, isn't it? We're just not meant to be fruitful all by ourselves. And this, I think, is maybe the most profound lesson of the harvest. Once that tree is established, it becomes dependable. It bears fruit year after year after year. It's not about some big, flashy spectacle. It's not about being new and novel all the time. It's about a quiet, steady, and deep faithfulness. All right, for our last lesson, let's look at the shape of the pear itself.
Because its very form, it gives us one last, really powerful metaphor for what it means to live a life of wholeness.
So, you know how most pears are kind of tapered? The Shinseiki is different. It's just round. And that might seem like a tiny detail, but it's actually a final, really powerful symbol.
That roundness, it just screams wholeness, completeness. It's a picture of what integrated maturity looks like, where you're not just strong in one area while you're a total mess in another. The goal is to be balanced, right? To be doctrinally sharp, but also incredibly kind, to be spiritually strong and emotionally healthy.
And all of this leads to a final, really gentle truth, especially for a world that loves loud, dramatic changes. The Shinseiki Pear reminds us that true renewal, real newness, it doesn't always have to roar. Sometimes it just ripens quietly. So maybe the next time you see one, you can ask yourself, what in my life needs to ripen quietly, instead of roaring?